The redemption of Abigaili, a story of grace, pain, and God's unfailing mercy. The morning sun had barely risen over the town of Umunid when Abigaili opened her eyes. She lay still on her bed, listening to the familiar sounds of life outside, women sweeping their compounds, roosters crowing, children chasing each other before school. For most people, these were ordinary sounds. But for Abigaili, they were reminders of all she longed for, what she feared she might never have. She turned slowly and saw her husband, Chukwudi, still asleep beside her. He looked peaceful, almost innocent, and guilt instantly washed over her heart. He had been a good man, patient, loving, even sacrificial. Yet she carried a secret that gnawed at her daily, the reason she had not been able to conceive after 6 years of marriage. It wasn't a curse. It wasn't witchcraft. It wasn't the village enemies her mother-in-law always muttered about. It was her past. A past she prayed Chukwudi would never discover. A past that haunted her every waking moment. For long before Chukwudi came into her life, long before she learned the true meaning of love, she had walked through a darker path, a path filled with mistakes, pressure, heartbreak, and fear. And she had paid the price. Abigaili was the first daughter in a family of 6 children. Her mother, a petty trader, had done everything she could to keep the home running after her father abandoned them for another woman in a neighboring village. Poverty was like a second skin to them. Hunger was familiar. School fees were a burden, and opportunities were rare. At age 17, Abigaili got her first boyfriend, Tga, a young man who claimed he loved her more than life itself. He was charming, outspoken, and generous in ways that dazzled a young girl who had known nothing but lack. When she got pregnant for him the first time, he panicked. "Obi, you know I love you, but I am not ready for this," he told her with trembling hands. "My father will kill me. Your mother has nothing. We can't raise a child now." Fear swallowed her. She had no guidance, no wisdom, no one to turn to. And so, she agreed. The first abortion nearly took her life. She bled until she passed out. The memory stayed with her like a scar carved into her soul. But she survived. And a few months later, she became pregnant again. This time Tga didn't even bother begging. He simply told her, "You know what to do." She obeyed again, and again, and again. For pregnancies, for abortions, before she turned 20. When Tga left her for a richer girl, she realized he had never truly loved her. She had given up pieces of herself, pieces she could never recover, only to be abandoned. Her heart shattered. Her innocence was gone. Her womb, wounded. She tried to rebuild herself, but the guilt clung to her like a shadow. Years later, when she met Chukwudi, she felt hope stir for the first time in a long while. He was gentle, hardworking, a man who saw beyond her brokenness even though he knew nothing of the darkest parts. They married in a joyous celebration, dancing under the open sky as family and friends rejoiced with them. But after 1 year, no pregnancy. 2 years, nothing. 3 years, still nothing. The whispers began. "She is a man. She has sold her womb. It is punishment. She has eaten children in the spirit world." Her mother-in-law became her enemy, accusing her of witchcraft, dragging her to native doctors, pastors, prophets, herbalists, anyone who promised answers. Sometimes, she endured strange rituals, bathing in cold streams at midnight, drinking bitter concoctions, being prayed for violently. But deep inside her heart, she knew the truth. Her past was hunting her present. Late at night, she would cry silently beside her sleeping husband. She wanted to confess. She wanted to tell him everything. But fear held her captive. What if he leaves me? What if he hates me? What if my marriage ends? She carried this weight alone year after year. By the 6th year, their home had changed completely. Chukwudi, once patient and gentle, grew distant. Her mother-in-law openly called her a waste. Neighbors mocked her. Women avoided her as if infertility was contagious. One afternoon, she overheard people at the market gossiping, "Chukwudi should marry another wife. That woman is a tree that doesn't bear fruit." Their words stabbed her heart like knives. She returned home, collapsed on her bed, and wept until her eyes burned. That night, she made a decision. She would tell Chukwudi everything. When he returned from work, she knelt before him, trembling. "There is something I must confess, something from my past," she began, tears streaming down her face. He stared at her, confused. "What is it?" She tried to speak, but the words choked her. She tried again, but shame suffocated her. All she managed to say was, "I am sorry," but she couldn't say why. She broke down completely, sobbing uncontrollably. Chuk Vudi hugged her, shocked and confused, asking what was wrong, but she couldn't voice the truth. That night, after he fell asleep, she got on her knees beside the bed. "God, I have made mistakes. I have sinned. I have destroyed my own destiny. If you will forgive me, if you will give me one more chance, even if it is just one child, I will serve you forever." It was the first time she prayed sincerely from herself. 3 months later, something unusual happened. Her pastor announced a 7-day prayer and fasting program titled Recovering What the Enemy Stole. Abigaili joined, fasting with a broken heart. On the last day, during prayers, the pastor suddenly pointed towards her. "You, the woman in the blue wrapper," he said. She froze. The pastor continued, "God says, the womb I healed, you shall use for my glory." Her heart skipped. The pastor added, "You have cried secretly for years. Your past condemned you. But God says He has forgiven you. Stop punishing yourself. A child will come." She burst into tears. Something shifted inside her, a peace she had not felt in years. Over the next weeks, she noticed subtle changes: nausea, tiredness, dizziness. At first she ignored them, thinking it was stress or malaria. But one morning, when she could no longer ignore it, she went to a small clinic in town. After several tests, the nurse walked in with a smile so wide it lit up the room. "Madam, you are pregnant." Her heart stopped. "Pregnant?" she whispered. "Yes. Congratulations." She burst into loud, uncontrollable tears that shook her body. She cried for her past, her pain, her shame, her redemption. God had done it. Telling Chuk Vudi was a moment she would never forget. He stared at the test results for a long time, silent, stunned, before collapsing to his knees. "God, thank you," he whispered. When she finally revealed her past abortions, every detail, every mistake, every reason she blamed herself, he listened quietly. When she finished, she expected him to reject her. But instead, he took her hands and said, "You are my wife. God has forgiven you. I forgive you too. Your past is gone. What matters is what God has done today." She wept in his arms. For the first time, the weight lifted. The pregnancy journey was difficult. Years of damage had left her womb weak. She was put on bed rest several times. She feared losing the baby daily. But each time fear came, she remembered the pastor's words, "The womb I healed, you shall use for my glory." 9 months later, after a long and painful labor, she heard the cry of her son, loud, strong, and full of life. Her miracle, her redemption, her proof that God restores broken things. When Chuk Vudi lifted the baby and placed him in her arms, she sobbed uncontrollably. "God, thank you," she whispered. "You saved me." They named him Chimla. God has done it. Today, years later, Abigaili is the mother of 3 healthy children. She shares her story everywhere: churches, women's meetings, youth gatherings, warning young girls about the consequences of early mistakes, but also reminding them that no past is too dark for God to redeem. No womb is too damaged for God to restore. No life is too broken for God to rebuild. Her story became a beacon of hope for many women who thought their mistakes had destroyed their futures. For weeks after baby Chimla's birth, Abigaili lived in a state of miracle-induced disbelief. Every morning, she would wake up, rush to the baby's crib, and place her ear close to his tiny chest just to hear his heartbeat, just to confirm he was real. Sometimes she lifted him gently and held him against her chest, whispering prayers of gratitude. But even in her joy, she felt a quiet fear. What if something happens to him? What if I lose this miracle? What if? She shook those thoughts away each time, but they lingered at the edges of her mind. Chuk Vudi noticed the anxiety. One evening, he approached her gently. "My love, the God who gave us this child will not take him away. Relax. Enjoy him. Trust God." She nodded and smiled, but deep inside she still felt the trembling. As the weeks turned into months, visitors trooped in from far and near: family, friends, church members, even strangers who had heard of the woman whom God remembered. Gifts poured in, prayers rose like incense, songs of joy filled their home. But with celebration came new pressure. Her mother-in-law, Mama Chidera, now proud and loud, turned into the mother of all mothers. She carried the baby everywhere as though she were the owner of the miracle. She boasted in every gathering, "My God does not fail. I told you people, my son married a true woman." People clapped for her. People praised God with her. But Abigail's heart ached quietly. This was the same woman who once called her a witch. The same woman who dragged her to countless herbalists. The same woman who mocked her publicly. Now she had forgotten her cruelty, washing it away with the glory of the miracle. One afternoon, when she thought no one was watching, Mama Chidera whispered to a neighbor, "So after all, it was not her fault. Something just delayed the child." The girl tried. Abigail heard it. She smiled to hide the pain. She forgave, but she could not forget. When Chimla was about 8 months old, Chukwudi received a job offer in another city, Owerri. It was a good opportunity, one they desperately needed to improve their financial situation. But the move came with complications. His mother refused to let them go. "You want to carry my grandson to another city where I cannot see him?" she demanded. "Never." Chukwudi tried to explain. No success. Abigail tried to soften the old woman's heart. No success. Village gossip intensified. "She wants to run away with the child. She will control him now. She knows she has no other chance." The same village that once scorned her now created new lies about her. One evening, tired of the arguments, Chukwudi said in frustration, "It's my job. It's my family. If Mama cannot understand, then we will go without her blessing." Mama Chidera broke down dramatically, rolling on the ground and crying. "You want this woman to scatter my life? You want her to take everything from me? Chifukwa, God forbid." The next week, she left the house and stopped visiting. This broke Chukwudi's heart. Abigail felt responsible, though it wasn't her fault. The day they packed their bags to leave for Owerri, she whispered to God, "Please don't let this blessing become the cause of bitterness." Owerri welcomed them with open arms. Chukwudi's new job paid well. Their new church embraced them warmly. The environment was peaceful. Chimla grew stronger, vibrant, and cheerful. And 3 months after they settled, another miracle happened. Abigail discovered she was pregnant again. This time, the tears came gently, warm, slow, holy. She didn't scream like she did the first time. She simply knelt on the cold tiled floor and whispered, "God, you are too good." She gave birth to a baby girl, tiny, beautiful, precious. They named her Oluwadaresmi. "God has been good to me." 2 years later, another boy arrived, Ifeanyichukwu, meaning nothing is impossible with God. 3 children, 3 gifts, 3 proofs of God's mercy. And the most beautiful part, her health grew stronger, her womb healed completely, her joy multiplied daily. 7 years after leaving the village, they returned for Christmas. This time, they came not with shame, not with whispers behind their backs, but with a car filled with children, laughter spilling out of the windows. Women rushed out to see the children. Men shook Chukwudi's hand with admiration. Neighbors whispered, "God is truly powerful. She is the woman who had no child for 6 years, now see her. Miracle God." Mama Chidera stood at the entrance of her compound, tears streaming down her cheeks as her grandchildren ran toward her. She hugged them so tightly she trembled. Then she turned to Abigail. "My daughter, forgive me. I did not know. I spoke wrongly. I accused you. I am sorry." Abigail placed her hands gently on the woman's shoulders. "Mama, God has settled everything. I forgave you long ago." They embraced. It was a healing only God could orchestrate. 2 weeks later, Abigail shared her testimony in the village church. She told them everything, her youthful mistakes, the abortions, the shame, the tears, the fear, the miracle, the restoration. Women cried. Teenage girls trembled. Men bowed their heads in silence. When she finished, the pastor stood up and said, "Abigail, your story will save lives." And it did. Within months, young girls stopped sneaking out at night. A small counseling group formed. Teenagers began to seek guidance instead of hiding problems. Women battling infertility came to her for prayer, encouragement, and comfort. Her story became a lifeline. Her voice became a tool. Her pain became a ministry. Today, many call her Mama Hope, because she carries hope everywhere she goes. Part 7, the God who restores many years past. Her children grew. Her marriage blossomed. Her mother-in-law became her closest companion. Her story continued to spread far and wide. And every time she stood before a crowd, she ended with the same words: God does not consult your past to decide your future. Even if you broke your destiny with your own hands, He can still pick up the pieces and rewrite your story. Abigaili became living evidence that mercy is stronger than mistakes, grace is deeper than guilt, and God's love restores everything.